For more of this kind of content you can subscribe to the channel, like the video and leave a comment. Harold's first thought as he woke was, where the hell am I? His wrists and ankles were strapped to what looked like a padded table. Then she walked in, green-skinned, dark-haired, beautiful. Harold J. Mason, she said, voice crisp, almost amused. Human, male, 33, Earthborn, volunteer for the Intraseas Medical Advancement Protocol. Welcome. Harold shifted the restraints holding, hi. The alien moved closer. No emotion, no smile. I am lead researcher Markina. You volunteered for an interspecies regeneration study. Her voice was smooth but clipped. You were compensated. Signed the waiver. Passed all psychological and genetic screenings. Do you recall this? Sort of. Harold muttered, I was told I'd be helping with science, not getting strapped down like a side of beef. Marcina's gaze lingered on him for a second too long. You are not meat, Harold, you are data. He swallowed. Great. That's comforting. She placed her tablet down. We're initiating phase 1 baseline mapping and tolerance calibration. You'll feel pressure. Do not panic. She turned to a panel and pressed a sequence of buttons. Try to relax, she said, not even glancing back. Hard to do when I'm trussed up like a Thanksgiving turkey. Marka stepped closer. Your vitals are spiking, elevated heart rate, adrenaline, cortisol. Perhaps you're feeling observed. He looked her dead in the eye. You keep looking. Do you like what you see? Her lips curved just slightly. We'll begin the neural tests next, she said, turning away, but her gaze flicked back to him as the door hissed open. Harold didn't sleep that night. They'd released him from the restraints after the initial tests. Replaying every second of that first interaction with Markina, he wasn't new to strange missions. Earth's exchange program sent people all over the galaxy. Now he'd signed up for the adventure, the paycheck, and if he was being honest, the bragging rights. But this wasn't just another lab on another Earth-like colony. This felt like he'd stepped into something else. The next morning he was escorted back to the lab, not in chains but with 2 green-skinned guards flanking him like he might spontaneously combust. Markina was already inside when he arrived. She stood at a terminal, her back to the door. The lab coat she wore today was translucent along the spine. She didn't turn when he entered. You're late, she said flatly. I wasn't aware I was on a schedule. You are now. Markina finally turned. I've reviewed your readings from yesterday. You're remarkably reactive emotionally and physically. That a compliment. It's data. He chuckled under his breath. You say that like it doesn't turn you on. She stopped barely 2 feet from him. You mistake interest for attraction, she said coolly. Do I? He murmured. Her gaze didn't waver. Remove your shirt. He blinked. Come again. We're starting the proximity stress trials. I need to observe your dermal conductivity without interference. Right, purely professional, she said. Nothing, just waited. Harold peeled off his shirt and dropped it onto a nearby bench. Marka picked up a thin probe, then stepped closer, close enough for him to feel the heat coming off her skin. She touched the probe to his chest, watching the data scroll past on her wrist display. You're responding again, she murmured, to being touched by a beautiful woman. Shock of the century. I'm not here to flatter your ego. Could have fooled me. She pressed the probe a little harder. Tell me what you feel. Harold exhaled, trying to focus on the sensation rather than the proximity of the woman holding the instrument. It's warm, tingling center of my chest, spreading outward. Pulse is elevated. Skin temp up 1.2 degrees. Noted. She moved behind him, then placed the device at the base of his neck. This time she leaned in close enough that her breath grazed his ear. Now his voice came out lower than he meant, same, stronger. She didn't move then. Harold couldn't shake the feeling that he just agreed to something without knowing the terms. That night he stood outside the lab chamber barefoot, wearing the minimal clothing Markina had instructed, a pair of fitted black shorts and a thin tank that might as well have been painted on. He hadn't seen Marcina all day. She'd sent another technician. Green-skinned, mute, all business. The door hissed open without warning. He stepped inside. Markina stood near the center, arms crossed behind her back. Her lab coat was gone. She wore something sleeker, still professional technically, but made of a fabric that hugged every inch of her. Harold swallowed hard. You said this was phase 2. It is, she replied, not moving. You're about to receive the prototype serum. You mean the actual experiment, the one I was supposed to be part of in the first place? Yes. And the minimal clothing. Marcina's gaze swept over him. The compound triggers thermoregulation fluctuations. The less interference the better. Any side effects I should know About before we get started she looked almost hesitant. The data is incomplete. Human responses may vary. He raised an eyebrows. So basically I might feel great or catch on fire. Unlikely. The serum is based on regenerative hormone pathways, not combustion. Well, that's reassuring. She held a small metal injector vial loaded with a clear blue liquid that seemed to glow faintly in the low light. Arm. He extended it. You're not going to sedate me first? No, she said simply. I want to observe your conscious reaction. The needle pressed against his skin with a subtle hiss. Heat bloomed in his chest first, then came the buzz like champagne fizzing through his veins. His vision blurred for half a second before sharpening. He staggered back, grabbing the edge of the nearest bench. Vitals are climbing, Markina murmured, more fascinated than concerned. Temperature 102. For elevated neurological activity. Pupil dilation. Yeah, Harold grunted, holding his forehead. I noticed. Described the sensations. Hot wired. My skin's hypersensitive, like I've been stretched too tight. You're responding faster than expected, she said, stepping closer. Touch sensitivity will continue increasing. Emotional pathways may intensify. You're saying I might feel things? Markina didn't answer. Instead she touched her fingers to his wrist, pressing gently. Harold flinched, not from pain but from the overwhelming rush that followed. Shit, fascinating, she whispered. Your dopamine levels are spiking. No kidding. Is the sensation uncomfortable? He shook his head. No. Just intense. She didn't move away. In fact, she leaned in closer than she'd ever been, her face inches from his, her eyes scanning his. Do you find me attractive? The question hit him like a slap. Seriously, this is data, she said. Answer. Harold's pulse pounded in his throat. Yes. Obviously she didn't react. The serum enhances emotional resonance, she said. What you feel now may be amplified. Understatement of the year, he said. She turned away abruptly, walking back to the console. We'll monitor your reactions over the next 12 hours. You'll remain under observation here. Sleep if you can. Markina worked in silence for a few minutes, inputting data, scanning vitals, tracking charts, and then something changed. She paused. Harold sat up straight. Are you okay? she said. It's nothing really, because I've seen what you look like when you're in control, and this isn't it. Marcina's shoulders stiffened. I monitored you, she said, finally, voice tight. Now you monitor me. Harold's mind raced. Wait, you took the serum too? I had to calibrate it for humanoid subjects. I needed a baseline for comparison. So you do yourself before giving it to me? Her eyes locked onto his. I needed to know what it would feel like. And I feel everything, she said softly. I should be angry, he said, but all I feel right now is you. This is temporary, she said. Then we better make the most of it. He reached up and touched her wrist. Her eyes fluttered shut. Too much, I know. She opened them again. You're part of the data now, Harold. Don't forget that. He smiled, slow and real. And what about you, Markina? We both part of it. Harold didn't sleep that night. The serum had rewritten his nervous system into something new. Felt deeper. She moved through the lab like a flame. He sat on the observation bed. Sleep isn't happening, he said finally. You're chemically overstimulated. That's expected. Harold leaned forward, elbows on his knees. And you took the same thing. You're pacing like you're
know what you're choosing. Then tell me. I was supposed to be one of them, she whispered. Command class genetic compatibility grade A, groomed for alliance, for breeding, for show. You know how rare it is to match interspecies. Viability, my pairing was supposed to secure a new generation of tacticals. Troy didn't flinch like a pawn-like property. Her voice cracked slightly. They told me it was an honor, that I'd serve the legacy, advance my people's power. That my body wasn't mine, it was duty. So I smiled. Trent played the role until the night before the bonding ceremony. I broke protocol, hijacked a command cruiser, and disappeared. She looked at him again. No weapons, no backup. Just a stolen ship, and a bloodstream full of enhancements meant for someone else's future. Troy's jaw clenched, and the General Senna laughed without humor. Still looking for me? Probably. I was his key to the next stage of genetic unification. I didn't just run, I humiliated him. You're not marked for death, Troy said. You're marked for revenge. She nodded. You should have told me, he said. Would you have still taken me in? Yeah, he said, no hesitation. But I would have locked the door faster. Then laughed. Real this time? Just once, then it vanished. You're the only one who didn't ask me to prove anything, she said. Not once. You Already proved everything when you walked through that alley and didn't beg. Senna studied him carefully quietly. Then she said something she hadn't said before, I didn't find you. What I chose you. Troy went still those words. Held weight, not sweet, not sentimental, they were dangerous like picking a side. In a war that hadn't even started yet, you didn't just risk your life hiding me, she said, you've been risking your heart every second since, and now we're both in too deep, you regretting it. She looked down at the blood on her shirt, the heat in her limbs, the bruise on her ribs, the memory of his mouth on hers. No, she said, I'm scared of it. Good, Troy said, that means it's real then. The ground vibrated beneath their feet. Troy's head snapped up, that wasn't background noise, movement breach. They both drew weapons. Troy keyed the hatch panel and slipped it open just enough to peek. Two armored figures moved down the main corridor, full armor, military grade. They weren't patrol grunts, they were death squads, precision teams, the kind that didn't bring prisoners back. Troy sealed the hatch again, looked at her. They found us. Senna stood tall despite her pain. Then we take the fight to them, she said. You sure you're up for that? Her fingers locked around the grip of her blaster. I can't walk straight, she said, but I can shoot. The corridor stretched before them, one last tunnel between survival and slaughter. Behind them the enemy, ahead of them a chance. Troy reached for her hand. Senna took it, one nod, one breath, and they ran. The corridor stank of rust and old war boots splashed through ankle-deep water as Troy and Senna ran, breath-tight. Pulse-pounding weapons drawn, their footsteps echoed off the curved walls, blending with the low mechanical hum of the grid's ancient power veins. They are inside the main frame, Troy muttered, grids reacting to internal command codes. They are not coming for surveillance, Senna said, her voice rough. They are coming to erase us. Then they'd better bring backup. They reached a junction. Troy held up a fist, both froze. He crouched, pulled a shard of reflective plating from the wall, and angled it around the corner. 3 full armor, 1 with a shoulder comm link. They are directing traffic command unit, Senna said, which means a whole stack behind them. We split them, drop the lead. Scatter the rest, you take left, she said. I'll distract, you're still injured. Doesn't matter. Troy looked at her, blood at her side, sweat strew across green skin. Eyes dark and sharp like fire pressed behind glass. Don't die, he said, don't plan to. Then she moved. Senna rounded the corner, fast blaster raised. She fired 3 shots before they could turn. 1 hit center mass armor sparked, but held the enemy dove for cover, shouting into comms. That was when Troy struck. He flanked left, silent through the dark, and drove a blade straight under the first soldier's chin before they could react. Armor plates flexed, blood sprayed. The second turned too late. Troy fired once, then twice, close range. The sound cracked through the tunnel like a gut punch. The body fell hard. The last soldier, the commel link, raised his rifle. Selena hit him center chest once, twice. He staggered. She moved forward fast despite her limp, slammed the butt of her blaster into his visor, and ripped the common from his belt. Troy caught her before she dropped. She was breathing hard. Her knees buckled for half a second, then straightened. Still standing, she gasped. He steadied her. Not for long if we stay here behind them. The comlink flared once, still active. Static hissed through, then a distorted voice. Unit 2 status report confirmed. Neutralization. Troy looked at Senna. Can you mimic their dialect? She nodded, took the device, tuned her voice.
What now? Marka didn't answer for a long time, then quietly she said, now we hide what we've done. Harold was still breathing hard, skin flushed. Markina adjusted her collar with trembling hands, wiping her thumb under her lip where his stubble had left a faint mark. No words passed between them. They'd crossed the threshold and there was no going back. They left the chamber in silence, slipping through the lab's auxiliary corridors. They reached her quarters. The moment the door sealed behind them, she activated her biometric scrambler. Surveillance blockers kicked in. Then she turned to him, eyes unreadable. We're compromised. She paced. Everything we did in that chamber is logged. The data is stored in the system. It'll flag anomalies, so delete it. I can't not without triggering a tampering alert. Then we're screwed. Markina turned face hard. Not yet. She went to her console. Fingers flying across the panel, a neural scan of her own face appeared on screen. This is what the council can't see, she said. If they know the serum activated this much, they'll shut the whole program down. Not just me, not just you, everyone involved. Harold walked over and studied the display. And you, what's happening inside you? I feel. He looked at her. For the first time in my life I feel everything. Then her console beeped. She checked it and her expression dropped. What, my superior? She said. Chief Director Luno. He wants to see me now. Harold straightened. He knows, he suspects. What if he demands the data? She turned toward him. Then I'll give him something else. Like what? You, she said quietly. Off the project transferred, removed from the subject pool. Harold flinched. Is that what you want? No, she snapped. It's what I have to say. If I don't give him a scapegoat, he'll come after us both. He'll shut down the lab and throw you on the first shuttle back to Earth. Harold folded his arms. And you're okay with that? Her voice wavered. Of course not. Then don't do it. I have to go, she said. Stay here no matter what happens. Not a chance. Harold, no. He stepped forward. If they come for you, I'm not sitting on the sidelines. You don't get to make this decision alone. Before she could argue, the door chimed. She turned, smoothing her expression into a mask of authority, and opened the door. Chief Director Luno. He was older, his green skin paler than most, his eyes sharp. Researcher Marcina, he said, glancing past her into the room. His eyes landed on Harold. Human subject unexpected. I requested a secondary interview, Markina said quickly. Personal assessment for post-trial integration. Unusual unauthorized experimental protocols permit brief follow-ups under post-O observation. Luno's gaze didn't waver. You've changed. Markina tilted her head. Explain your behavior. Your biometric logs show irregularities. Harold stepped forward. She's fine. Luno's eyes narrowed. You'll speak when spoken to. I'm not a pet or one of your neatly filed variables. Luno moved closer to Markina. We'll need your full report, including chamber interaction data. Markina didn't flinch. It's incomplete. Then submit what you have. I can't. Luno stared at her. Can't or won't? The wall screen behind them came alive. A secure alert. Unauthorized access detected. Lab integrity breached. Markina turned. What the hell? Luno's hand went to his comm. Security teams initiate lockdown. Containment breach in Lab 3. Harold felt his stomach drop. Someone's going after the data. Markina moved fast. It's a diversion. They're trying to pull our files. She turned to Luno. If you want to preserve the program, let us move. Let me stop this. Luno studied her. You're compromised. Marcina's eyes burned. Maybe. But I'm still the only one who knows how to fix what's coming. Luno's lips tightened. 10 minutes, no more. She didn't wait. She grabbed Harold's wrist and pulled him into the corridor, moving fast, running now. They reached the main terminal room. Inside, two figures were hunched over the control panel, green-skinned, unmarked uniforms. They turned as Harold and Markina entered and drew stun sticks back up. Marka hissed. We've got to disable the system. Harold didn't wait. He sprinted forward and slammed into the first intruder, knocking them into the console. Alarm screamed louder. The second attacker swung the stun stick, but Markina intercepted. She spun it in one fluid motion and cracked it across the side of the attacker's head. They dropped data, Markina said. Panting, check it. Harold leaned over the console. Files still encrypted. They didn't get in. Marka dropped into the seat, hands shaking. She transferred the logs to a private cloud node. This buys us time, she said, not safety. They backed out just as the security team stormed the corridor. Luna watched from a distance, silent, unreadable. Back in her quarters hours later, Markina collapsed onto the low bench. The data breach had bought them a window. Harold didn't leave Marcina's quarters that night. The security team had cleared the corridor. Luno had said nothing further and the facility went quiet. You've been staring at those scans for hours. I need to understand, she said without turning. My neural readings, they're not normal. You already knew that. She spun her chair toward him, frustration flaring in her eyes. No, Harold, not like this. The serum didn't just heighten my sensitivity. It triggered something deeper. Compatibility under biochemical manipulation. Long-term alterations. You're saying it's permanent? I'm saying I don't know what I am anymore. He stepped closer. You're still you, just a version they didn't give permission for. She looked up at him. Then what he saw was fear. I don't know how to be this. Harold crouched down in front of her, resting his hands on her knees. You don't have to figure it out alone. I shouldn't want you, but you do. She closed her eyes. That's the problem. No, that's The truth, Marka whispered. I accessed the restricted research logs. Harold blinked. The ones you told me didn't exist. I lied. Well, that's not shocking. She didn't look away. This project was never just about cellular regeneration. It was always about us. You mean humans and your people? No, I mean you and me. She walked to the display panel and pulled up a file. Labeled Project OS experimental lines of classified reports, logs, physiological overlays, emotional resonance graphs, all of them tagged to her ID and his. They were testing interspecies bonding, emotional transference. Harold's mouth went dry. You're saying I was picked for this? Carefully selected. You matched all the markers and I was the ideal counterpart. Emotionally repressed, genetically conditioned. He stepped toward her, anger simmering now. So this was never about science, it was about us. As lab rats, yes, she said quietly, and I let it happen. Harold exhaled through his nose, looking away. And you didn't think I deserved to know. I tried to keep the boundaries. I tried to follow the rules, and then you kissed me, and then I couldn't stop. She closed the file with a gesture. I don't know if what we feel is real or just serum-driven chemistry. I don't know if I care. Harold didn't hesitate. I do, because it feels real, and whatever they built this experiment to test, they didn't account for what it would do to us. Her breathing hitched. What happens when they find out? He asked. They already suspect, she said. Luno isn't stupid, neither is the council. Then we don't wait for them. Markina stepped back just enough to look him in the eyes. What are you saying? I'm saying let's go on the record before they twist this, before they frame it as contamination or misconduct. We tell the truth, they'll use it against us, or we use it first. She
hesitated, then her comm link pinged incoming message. Subject, internal investigation, ethics board summons immediate, they are initiating disciplinary review tomorrow. Harold read the rest. Both subject and lead researcher, to report for deposition, suspension pending review. They don't want a scandal, they want a clean cut. She turned to him. If we go into that hearing together, you'll be blacklisted from every allied program on this side of the galaxy, and if we don't, they'll erase you, deport you, quietly claim the experiment failed, shut down the research. Harold shrugged. Then I guess we make noise first. She stared at him. You'd risk everything for me. I already have. Then she pulled open her encrypted files and began compiling the entire experiments raw logs. I'll send this to the ethics board in the Interspecies Press Alliance if the story is going to break. It breaks our way. Harold placed a hand over hers. Then we do it together. She nodded. Together they worked through the night, assembling a statement structuring the data, bracing for the backlash. They walked into the hearing room side by side. The council members watched them like judges about to swing hammers. Markina didn't flinch because the boundary wasn't just crossed anymore. Markina had never sat on this side of the ethics tribunal bench. She'd stood behind it once as a contributing scientist. She remembered how righteous she'd felt then, dissecting someone else's failures. Now she was the failure. Harold sat beside her at the long table. The 4 council members facing them wore the same shade of pale green skin, silver trim on their robes denoting rank. Luno stood behind them, silent, arms folded. Markina leaned toward Harold. Don't speak unless addressed. Let me take the brunt. No chance. I'm sitting here like an extra in your downfall. The lead adjudicator, a woman named Calisbua, tapped the table. Researcher Marcina, subject Harold, you are both summoned under Protocol 17 subsection 4 regarding conduct violations in a cross-species biomedical trial. Do you understand the charges? Markina stood. We do. Callis didn't invite Harold to stand. The second counselor leaned forward. The data dump you sent last night is being investigated. However, its transmission without authorization constitutes a breach of confidentiality. Harold stood. Anyway, you're more worried about your secrecy than your science. Eyes turned on him like blades. Markina touched his arm. He sat seething. Callis continued. Let's be clear, this tribunal is not evaluating your emotional compatibility, it is evaluating whether this research was corrupted by personal entanglement. The data proves it worked, Markina said. Biological compatibility, neural synchronization, emotional mapping. It exceeded every predictive model. And yet, the third member said, scrolling through a file on their tablet, you crossed ethical boundaries. You exposed the subject to unverified dosages. You Engaged in a physical relationship without committee clearance. Harold looked ready to explode. So your problem isn't the science, it's the kiss. The fourth member, you violated the prime research directive. Emotional involvement between lead researchers and subjects is expressly forbidden. It was never just me. Markina said, this project was designed to push those limits. You built it to test what happens when emotion and biology merge. You wanted the results, you just didn't expect to lose control. Callus's eyes narrowed. You implying we sanctioned this? I'm not implying, I'm stating it. Marka reached into her packet and pulled a printed directive. The one she'd found buried in the archive hours before the hearing. She laid it on the table, coded as Experimental OS Observer Subject Fusion Initial Authorization, signed by Luno. Your names are all listed under approval. Even Luno's face twitched. You built this, she said, then tried to burn it down when it worked too well. The tribunal lead frowned, reading the directive. We'll recess, she finally said, to evaluate the authenticity of these records. You are confined to quarters until summoned again. Harold stood, blood still hot. What happens if they don't like what they read? Markina looked at him. Then the experiment is over. They were escorted out separately back in her quarters. The walls felt like they were closing in. The knock on her door came 2 hours later. She opened it, expecting a guard. It was Luno. His expression was neutral. You've cornered them. It was bold and foolish. You gave me no choice. He stepped inside uninvited. You've destabilized a controlled study with emotion. Do you